Good evening and welcome to the Monday, June 26, 2023 meeting of the Hillsborough Township Board of Education. In accordance with the state's Sunshine Law of New Jersey, adequate notice of this meeting of the Hillsborough Township Board of Education was provided on June 22, 2023 to the Hillsborough Beacon and the Courier News. Mr. Eckert, may we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Davis? Here. Ms. Jackson?
Here.
Mr. Kidd? Ms. Lanning Beater?
Here.
Mr. Lee? Here. Ms. Nurse? Ms. Stats?
Here.
Mr. Hio?
Here.
And Mr. Marie. We have a quorum.
I will now take a motion to move into executive session. And whereas the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231 of the laws of 1975 provides that a public body may exclude the public from that portion of a meeting of which the public body discusses certain matters for which confidentiality is required as permitted in Section 7B of the Act. Resolved by the Board of Education of the Township of Hillsborough and the County of Somerset and State of New Jersey as follows. 1, the matters to be discussed are legal matters. 2, the matters discussed in executive session shall be disclosed to the public when the need for confidentiality no longer exists. May I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Eckert, may we have a roll call, please?
All in favor?
Oh, yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We will be in executive session and expect to return at 7:30. Thank you. Welcome back. The board is now back from executive session. Mr. Eckert, may we please have a roll?
Sure. Mr. Davis?
Here.
Ms. Jackson?
Here.
Mr. Kidd? Ms. Lammy Beater?
Here.
Mr. Lee?
Here.
Ms. Nurse? Ms. Stats?
Here.
Ms. Trujillo?
Here.
And Mr. Marini. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Eckert. May we now please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you, and I'd like to acknowledge the correspondence as listed. Next, we'll go into committee reports. Ms. Jackson, if we could have the education report.
The first topic was gifted and talented follow-up. Dr. Trabulski provided perspectives on how the gifted and talented program will be implemented at the middle school. There'll be collaboration throughout the year between himself, Mr. Carey, Mr. Knoll, and media specialists at HMS and ARIS. Dr. Trabulski then gave some insight on how G&T students will be identified and supported using the child study team as a model. A team will be put together tasked with identifying students and implementing a program that meets their unique needs. Individualized plans will be implemented based on the students' identified areas of giftedness and regular meetings to follow the progress and interests. In addition to individualized instruction, the media specialists will work with students who are interested in working on passion projects, connect students to mentors, and provide resources to help students complete their projects, as well as connect them to other academic opportunities such as science shows and academic competitions. Dr. Trabulski noted the G&T in the 5th through 8th grade levels will no longer be pigeonholed into social studies. The program will provide more diverse opportunities for learning and exploration. Analytical skills will become more of a focus. A brief discussion took place on how the SEL component of the counseling curriculum can help support the needs of the G&T population, specifically the connection between behavior concerns. A committee member inquired about how to go about getting parental buy-in, and Dr. Trabulski shared this will likely be modeled after the CST, but this is something they are still exploring and formulating. And Dr. Trabulski finished by stating he will continue to collaborate with Mr. Carey in sharing best practices as the new practices are implemented. Second item was building borough-backed education, curriculum, and instruction and technology. Mr. Volpe shared much of what he was going to review was covered in the school performance report presentation, but due to limited time, he will revisit the agenda item of the next meeting. Then the HTPS 2021-2022 school performance report. Dr. Feltry shared the presentation that will be delivered at this evening's meeting, so we'll wait for those details. A brief discussion took place highlighting how local assessments help us determine where we are missing standards in the curriculum. And that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Ms. Stats, if we could have the HR report.
The Human Resources Committee met on Wednesday, June 21st. We discussed various issues regarding 2 clubs. We also were given an update on vacancies and anticipated vacancies involving administration and certified staff. We were told that the administration has been very busy hiring candidates for the 2023-2024 school year. As people are resigning and retiring, the HR committee was interested and will eventually be looking at responses from exit interviews. We also finalized the job descriptions for safety and security positions that will be mentioned in the referendum proposal. And we also discussed some questions related to the activities fees and athletic fees. And we will be discussing more about the building borough back matters that are related to human resources in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stats. And I will give the Operations and Governance Committee meeting minutes. So for operations, we met on June 20th, and we had several items for discussion, some of which are on tonight's agenda. We had a discussion about the capital and maintenance reserve deposits. So tonight, we will be approving, or on the agenda, there'll be a resolution to transfer up to $5 million. We don't expect to get to that amount, but that would provide flexibility. And the actual amount will come from the audit once that's complete. The second topic was the emergency arsenic plant project at Woodfern Elementary School, and that is on tonight's agenda to be approved as an emergency project. Basically, yeah, so I'll end with that. The food service, we had Ms. Major DiGregorio come and give us an excellent presentation about Sodexo and all the great work that they're doing. Just so many healthy meals that are being provided at the elementary school and high school. She was describing salads and just different options for the students to choose from. And most excitingly, they have a food competition, culinary competition. Elementary schools have been participating in it for many, many years. And apparently this year, the high school team also competed in a national competition where our high school team won first place, earning $5,000, and that prize is on tonight's agenda to accept as a donation. So thank you, Ms. Major DiGregorio. Next, there was discussion about the Amsterdam tennis courts that are in disrepair, and the administration is discussing with the township possible partnership for the repairs, so that is very exciting that it will then be able to be used by our students. And that is it for operations. Next, on the governance committee, we met on June 21st, and we reviewed the school and facility naming policy 7250, and we will be discussing possible naming of the pole barn for Mr. Van Cleef and his family due to his excellent long-term support of the Hillsborough High School. Next, we were discussing in the Building Borough Back Report, the governance section, there'll be some discussion at the next meeting about potential changes for how often the Board of Education meets, but that is forthcoming, not quite yet, but I just wanted to let everybody be aware of that. And then finally, on tonight's agenda, the strategic planning. So that is on tonight's agenda with Hazard Young Atia Associates. That's very exciting that we were going to be embarking on a new district strategic plan. And that completes my report. Are there any questions on any of the committee reports? Okay, seeing none, then I will turn it over to Mr. Volpe for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Ms. Trujillo. And first item in my report, I want to say congratulations to our 2023 graduates. It was a fantastic graduation event at Jersey Mike's Arena. And if you did get a chance to see it, yes, I got choked up. Yes, I shed a tear as my stepdaughter was one of the graduates. But it was an amazing experience, both as a first-time superintendent in Hillsborough as well as a parent. So congratulations to all of our graduates. I did also want to thank the board members very much for two items specifically that are on tonight's agenda. And I'll be talking more about these at future board meetings and hopefully through some community engagement. We are approving tonight, as mentioned, job descriptions for the hopeful security positions that will be voted on in November by the public. So it can start to be concrete when people ask, what are these people doing? We can start to look at those job descriptions and have in-depth conversations about them. The second thing is item 13.6, which, as Ms. Trujillo mentioned, was our partnership for strategic planning with HYA. I've had a lot of community members come out about big ideas and things they want to see included in the district. And I've been saying, well, we're going to deal with that in strategic planning. And there's an attachment on tonight's agenda if you want to see what HYA is proposing as far as focus groups and community engagement. Those ideas are going to be out there. And some of these big ideas we have been consistently talking about can come up during that time and maybe will become a part of our strategic plan. So that's under item 13.6 available on our, 13.16, not 13.16, 13.16. that you can see a lot of the activities that will be taking place as a part of our strategic plan. And we'll be starting with some conversations with board members this summer, and hopefully into the fall, be kicking things into high gear. The last item on my superintendent's report is a presentation on our school performance report. I'm very happy to introduce to the Hillsborough public Brianna Kane, who is one of our math teachers at the high school. She is also an administrative intern for the district, and she was able to present this to our education committee. And I was happy to say that our education committee had seen a lot of this information already. You've heard them reference the Building Borough Back report. That was my 100-day report to the board, where a lot of this information was included. However, we do have the responsibility to bring all this information to the public, and Ms. Kane is going to present to the Board of Education for the first time. So I will put it up on the board behind me, and then Brianna, it's going to be your show for a little bit.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Okay, so the 2021-2022 school performance report.
You can just tell me when to go to the next slide.
Sounds good. The school performance reports reflect the New Jersey Department of Education's extensive efforts to engage with parents, students, and school communities, and to share the information that is most valuable in providing a broader picture of overall school performance. We created this PowerPoint to highlight the key information, but the entire report can be found at njschooldata.org. We also have a link on our district website where you can find the full report as well as this presentation. The 2021-2022 school performance reports include nearly all data that was previously reported prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, such as assessment results and accountability data. However, the 2021-2022 reports will not include student growth as measured by median student growth percentiles, MSGPs, because the individual school growth percentiles, SGPs, were not calculated for the 2021-2022 school year due to the cancellation of the NJSLA assessments during the 2019-2020, 2020-2021 school years. COVID-19 significantly impacted the state's ability to measure school performance and student achievement during the 2020-2021 school year. Therefore, some data that is typically reported is not available. The NJDOE, the Board of Education, and the district recognize that our existing data cannot begin to measure the hard work and perseverance of the students, families, educators, and community members during these difficult years. The school performance reports typically include data for the categories listed in this slide. The asterisks indicate that the data will not be available and will not be reported in this presentation. The exclamation point indicates that the data is available but may have some impact as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. As a note, the New Jersey Student Learning Assessment, the NJSLA, was canceled in the spring of 2020 and 2021. As a result, statewide assessment data is not available, and subsequently, student growth percentiles were not calculated for 2019-2020, 2020-2021, and 21-22. The requirement to calculate indicator scores, summative scores, and progress towards long-term goals and interim progress was waived for both the 2019-2020, 2020-2021 school years. This data will not be included in this report. The performance reports provides information about student enrollment and demographics. The tables in this section show the student enrollment by different student characteristics, such as grade level, student group, racial and ethnic group. All enrollment and demographic data in this section is based on the end of year enrollment data and only includes students who attend school. Student growth is a measure of how much students are learning each year. Each student gets a student growth percentile, SGP, from 1 to 99 for English 4th through 8th grade and mathematics 4th through 7th grade that explains their progress compared to students who had similar test scores in the past, their academic peers. However, the SGPs were not calculated, as mentioned earlier, due to the cancellation of the NJSLA in both 2019-2020, 2021-2022 school years. Since the cancellation of the median student growth percentiles, MSGPs, relies on 1 to 2 consecutive years of prior assessment results to calculate individual student growth percentiles, their reports were not included in the data. However, we did include a slide showing the MSGPs for the 2018-2019 school year. These graphs are supposed to illustrate trends in student growth over the last 3 years. Student growth is measured by median student growth percentiles. The table would also show us how student growth over the last 3 years compares to the statewide median. The 2021-2022 school performance reports will include assessment results for the first time since 2018-2019 reports. These graphs are supposed to show trends in proficiency rate for federal accountability over the last 3 years and shows the percentage of students that met or exceeded expectations on the assessments. The expectation is that the minimum of 95% of students participate. Due to the cancellation of the NJSLA in both spring of 2020 and spring of 2021, participation and proficiency rates are not available for 2019-2020, 2020-2021. In lieu of having state proficiency data, we administered local assessments. These Linkit benchmark assessments were given in 2021-2022 to help measure and support student learning. 3 benchmarks were administered over the year, and growth was calculated at the end of the year. This data was used in conjunction with the Start Strong assessment data to adjust pacing in ELA and math, as well as for discussions surrounding learning acceleration. Individual student benchmark information was used to identify students in need of additional support or enrichment, such as response to intervention services and wraparound services being offered with the use of ESSER funding. This chart here is a comparison of the growth seen on the Linkit benchmark assessment for the years of 2020, 2021, 2021, 2022. Beginning in 2021, the NJDOE was required by the United States Department of Education's Federal Performance Review Report to make changes to graduation rate calculations used for federal reporting and accountability. The NJDOE began calculating and reporting 2 versions of the graduation rate. The federal version aligns with the ESSA requirements and the United States Department of Education's guidance and will be used for federal reporting and ESSA school accountability only. The state version continues to use the same methodology used prior to 2021 and reflects all students who receive a state-endorsed diploma. For the federal version of the 2022 graduation rates, students with disabilities who do not meet either the state course requirements, local attendance requirements, and/or state assessment requirements for graduation because of a modification or exemption of their individualized education program, their IEP, were not included in the graduates count, the numerator, but remained in the adjusted cohort, the denominator. It is important to note that these required federal changes only change how graduation rates were calculated for federal reporting and accountability. These changes do not affect requirements to earn a diploma or the type of diploma that the state awards to students with disabilities. Graduation rates are calculated based on data submitted by each school district. New Jersey uses the adjusted cohort graduation rate formula that is mandated by the federal government. 4-year graduation rates are calculated by dividing the number of students who graduated within 4 years of entering grade 9 by the total number of students who started high school 4 years earlier. 5-year graduation rates are calculated by dividing the number of students who graduated within 5 years of entering grade 9 by the total number of students who started high school 5 years earlier. Again, here we have the federal version of the graduation rates, which align with the ESSA requirements and USED guidance and will be used for federal reporting and ESSA school accountability only. This table shows the percentage of the cohort 2022 graduates who met the high school graduation assessment requirements through each type of graduation pathway for both English language arts and math. The goal is for as many students as possible to meet the graduation requirements using the statewide assessment. The table shows that we are indeed above the state percentage for students successfully meeting the graduation requirement using the statewide assessment and below the state percentage for alternative assessment pathways, which is where we want to be. Student absences provide information about a school's culture and climate. Research shows that absences impact a student's ability to succeed in school. Chronic absenteeism is defined as being absent for 10% or more of the days enrolled during the school year. A student who is not present for any reason, whether excused, unexcused, or for disciplinary action, is considered absent unless permitted by the state statute or regulations. Due to a federal waiver, the NJDOE did not report chronic absenteeism in the 2019-2020 reports, but this data was added back in the 2020-2021 reports. This graph shows the percentage of students by grade level who were chronically absent during the school year. Teacher diversity improves outcomes for all students. This table and graph both show that there is greater student diversity in classrooms than teacher diversity in schools across the state. So this is statewide teacher demographic information. Whereas this table and graph both show that there is greater student diversity in our classrooms than teacher diversity in our schools. We are continuing our efforts to increase the diversity of our teaching force. The college and career readiness section of the reports shows information about college entrance exams, advanced coursework, career and technical education, CTE programs, and participation in coursework across subject areas. Dual enrollment courses allow high school students to enroll in college courses for credit prior to their high school graduation. Career and technical education concentrators have completed 2 or more courses in a single approved CTE program and/or have completed the entire CTE program. The New Jersey Department of Education State Seal of Biliteracy identifies graduating high school students who are able to demonstrate proficiency in English in addition to 1 or more languages. The college and career readiness section includes participation in visual and performing arts coursework for students in grades 6 through 12. In grades 6 through 8, students cycle through related arts, and in the high school, these courses become electives. And we do not have a dance or drama program at the middle or high school levels. This table shows the number of incidents reported by type. The last row shows the rate of incidents for every 100 students enrolled. A single incident may be counted under multiple incident types. The total unique incidents row provides an unduplicated count of incidents. To provide for student safety, the building is secured throughout the day. Visitors, when allowed, must sign in upon entry and will be stopped at various points throughout the building to check for visitors' passes. Students and staff are trained annually on the standard response protocol for lockouts, lockdowns, evacuation, shelter-in-place scenarios. Drills in these areas, as well as fire drills, are conducted monthly. The entire school population plays an active role in preserving the safety of the school community. This table shows the number of students in full day and half day, pre-K, and kindergarten for the past 3 school years. As you know, we have half day programs in Hillsborough. Our full day programs are found in our Title I schools as service to our most at-risk students for early intervention. COVID-19 has impacted enrollment due to some parents disenrolling their children from public school. The general population does not have access to full-day kindergarten. It is only our Title I schools. This table shows ratios of student and staff members in the district compared to the state. Numbers in green indicate that we have a better ratio than the state, and numbers in red indicate that we have a worse ratio than the state. The data indicates that we have fewer administrators, nurses, child study team members, social workers, and school safety specialists compared to the state. Child study team members include school psychologists, school social workers, and learning disability teacher consultants. The ratio of child study team compares students with disabilities instead of all students. This table shows the percentage of 2021 high school graduates enrolled in post-secondary institutions by the fall of 2022. In the racial groups with large enough sample size, a greater percentage of Hillsborough students enrolled in colleges and universities than students across the state. The National Student Clearinghouse has reported declines in undergraduate enrollment as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. As a result, please use caution when comparing the year's results to prior or future years. This concludes the presentation at this time. Any feedback or questions can be found on the links provided.
Thank you, Brianna. You have all the skills to be a school administrator now, so you've done it. If there's any questions, probably we'll have Dr. Feltry or myself answer them if there are any, but I know the board did see a lot of that academic information in April when I put together my 100-day report. There was some different information here too. And for members of the public, if you have any additional questions or want to dig deeper, this is posted on our website. It'll be posted there all year until it needs to be refreshed with new data. And the only thing I would point out and stress too is let's not draw too broad of a conclusions based on this data. The data that we're looking at in comparison is years apart. And even when we get next year's data, Hillsborough still has gone through a transition during the course of this year with new board members, and most notably me. And a new superintendent coming in does have a lot of things to look into. So we will be comparing those numbers over time, not just from year to year, but hopefully over a longer period of time as we continue to build Borough back. At this time, I would just like to know if any board members have any questions. And like I said, either Dr. Feltry or I will be answering them. If there are none, I don't want to force anybody to ask a question. You can always reach out to us if there are questions. And then I believe that will bring us back to you, Mr. Trujillo.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Volpe. Thank you, Ms. Kane. May I have a motion and a second for the motion to approve executive session minutes from June 12th, 2023, and motion to approve public meeting minutes from June 12th, 2023?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Stats. Okay, so next, I'd like to welcome input from the public on the action agenda only. We very much welcome input from the public. During board meetings, there will be two 30-minute periods of time that the meeting will be open for public comment, where members of the public are invited to comment. During the first public comment period, members of the public may comment about items that are listed on tonight's agenda before the board votes. During the second public comment period, members of the public may comment on any school or school district issue that a member of the public feels may be of concern to the residents of the school district as per bylaw 167. Before you state your comment, you will be asked to provide your name and address. There's a 3-minute limit on public comment. Please understand that our public forums are not structured as question and answer sessions, but rather are offered as opportunities to share your thoughts with the board. In instances where the board believes there is a misunderstanding or inaccuracy, the board president or superintendent will address the comment. There may be times when a member of the public makes a comment or asks a question about personnel or hiring decisions. Kindly note that the Open Public Meetings Act and the privacy rights of public employees encompassed therein do not permit the board to discuss personnel issues in public session. At this time,
Good evening, Stefania Lockwitz, Eastern River Road, addressing 1110 and 1111 kind of together. I was going to offer some vantage points as a parent of a child who has an IEP and who is eligible for REACH. But I realized as I was thinking about what I was going to say about the counseling curriculum, I realized that this is stuff that's best left to subject matter experts. So if the subject matter experts, the people who are listed here for gifted and talented curriculum writing would love to hear that that from me, I'm happy to provide it, but I don't think it's any value to you as a group. So I would just say, trust the subject matter experts. I hope that all of you are following some of the controversies that are happening around the state, and thankful that they are not approaching us here. And really what they've come down to is not trusting the subject matter experts. So I hope that as this curriculum writing work that is done and tonight's approval, that the board will, excuse me, will do exactly that, trust the subject matter experts. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any other public comments? Okay, seeing none, I'll close public comments. Any comments from the board? Okay, then I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Volpe.
Thank you. I would ask for the board's consideration to approve the following motions for approval in the area of education: professional and travel-related expenses, the submission of an amendment for and accept the transfer of funds within the ARP IDA preschool grant, approving the submission of the IDEA grant application, approving the submission of the amendment for funds within the ARP ESSER grant, submission of an amendment for and accepting the transfer of funds within the ESEA grant, motion to approve staff for the summer you, me, and the PLC, accepting a climate awareness education grant in the amount of $6,600, approving additional ESSER summer school staff as listed, approving an overnight trip, approving curriculum writing, approving the revised curriculum, and that is all under the area of education.
Thank you, Mr. Volpe. May I have a motion and a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Eckert, if we could have a roll?
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Lanning Beater?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Stats?
Yes.
And Ms. Trujillo?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. In the area of human resources, I would ask the board's consideration to approve the following motions: resignations, transfers and changes in assignments, leaves of absence for 22-23, affirming appointments for 23-24, approving a clinical internship, approving extra coverage, approving summer athletic camp staff, approving summer work for 2023, approving the extended school year program staff, approving job descriptions, approving the HPSA salaries for 23-24, approving the HPSA administrator doctorate credit salary change for 23-24, approving seventh period coverage for 22-23.
Thank you, Mr. Volpe. May I have a motion and a second?
I have a question. May I ask a
Can we
question?
get the motion and a second, and then we can have discussion?
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion, Mr. Davis?
It doesn't affect, I was reading through these prior to the meeting, the job descriptions for security folks. And in the qualifications, they each require a substitute teacher certificate. And I was curious as to why that's the case, and perhaps it's for the fingerprint background check stuff, or why the substitute teacher certificate?
Sure. It's not necessarily for the criminal history clearance. We have to do that for all employees, whether they're certificated or not. The reason why we're looking for someone with a substitute certificate, which does require 60 college credits, and then the application for the substitute certificate, is because at some point, these people may be in charge of students. Example, I can see these people at some time talking to groups of students absent of teachers, or in a cafeteria such as this, being the person looking out for students. And state law says that we have to have a certified personnel doing that at all times. And a substitute certificate does check that box for being certified. Ergo, I wanted these employees at some point, if need be, to be the ones looking out for students.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Volpe. Any other comments or discussion? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Eckert?
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Lanning Beater?
Yes.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Ms. Stats,
Yes.
and Ms. Trujillo.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. In the area of operations, I'd ask for the board's consideration approving the following motions: monthly bills, monthly financials, line item transfers, our financial status, capital maintenance reserve transfer, the 2023-24 renewal agreement with Linkit, approving a shared services agreement with CJ Pride for 23-24, approving the emergency contract. This is the one that Ms. Trujillo mentioned from her committee report. Approving professional services contract for 23-24. Approving a resolution for bathroom waivers for 23-24 as listed. Approving alternate spaces for instructional services. Approving the resolution to ratify the agreement between the Hillsborough Township Board of Education and the Hillsborough Principals and Supervisors Association for 2023 through 2026. The issuance of checks and payments between meetings, and accepting a donation, and the disposal and sale of obsolete equipment, along with the letter of agreement for strategic planning development, item 13.16, thank you, Dr. Feltry, with HYA, out-of-district placements for 23-24, a resolution to extend tutor.com services, and that's it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Volpe. May I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Eckert?
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Jackson,
Yes.
Ms. Lanning Beater,
Yes.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Ms. Stats,
Yes.
and Ms. Trujillo.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Volpe and Mr. Eckert. So now is our second public comment period where members of the public may speak on any topic. So I would welcome you to the podium. 3-minute limit still stands.
Good evening, Stefania Lockwoods, Millstone River Road. I want to address comments that were pretty much directly addressed at me at the last meeting that I attended on May 22nd. It's unfortunate that Mrs. Nurse is not here, Ms. Nurse, excuse me, is not here, because I really wanted to address some of what she said. But the theme of the comments that were brought up between board members was the issue of respect and the issue of, quite frankly, it was directed at me, of people feeling that I am not being respectful. So I wanted to give you just a little bit of information on the record, on the microphone, on the video, about why I feel I'm being treated with exactly the same level of respect that I'm demonstrating to certain board members. And I apologize for those of you who don't share these views, who don't share these actions. But the simple fact of the matter is that twice in the last month, Mr. Davis has posted direct links to transphobic documentaries on his social media. Not his private social media, mind you, but his social media that was associated with his election campaign. So when you talk to me about respect, we have a seated board member who is actively pushing right-wing misinformation about me. So I take that personally. So I will meet Mr. Davis, as I have said to other people in this room before, I will meet people where they are. And right now, Mr. Davis has had the audacity to come to me and say, I'm really glad you're here. Really? You have the audacity to say that to me after the things that you post on social media about people like me. As I alluded to earlier, there's a lot of controversy happening in the state right now. We are very fortunate that it is not coming to Hillsborough. And I do not think that anyone in this community has an appetite for it to come to Hillsborough. Least of all because it will cost the district tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees should some of this right-wing propaganda make its way here and get a foothold. I will continue to speak aggressively. I will continue to speak with the same tone that is being addressed towards me, which is one of contempt. So if you want to hear a change in my tone, I suggest that you police your own before the State Ethics Commission has to get involved. Because people outside of the district are starting to notice Mr. Davis's posts. People are coming to me and saying, hey, aren't you in Hillsborough? Do you know about this guy? Yeah, I do. I do, as a matter of fact. Okay? I don't want to have to deal with ethics charges. I don't want to have to deal with state investigations and money and this and that any more than the rest of you do. So can we please remember that the state ethics rules say that political content is not appropriate for board members? Can we say that this is a nonpartisan body, and bringing right-wing misinformation to it is a disservice to the students. For the 7 of you who did your job last time and voted without getting wrapped up in culture war nonsense, I applaud you and I appreciate you. Ms. Jackson, excuse me. I apologize for getting you
Ms.
caught up.
Zalakowicz, your time is up.
I apologize for getting
Ms.
you caught up with Mr. Davis last time. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any other comments from the public? Okay, seeing none and closing public comment, and I will open it up to the board. Ms. Stats.
I just want to talk about an assembly that I attended at Amsterdam Elementary School on June 1st. It was a Locks of Love assembly where students, staff, and parents donated their locks of hair, and their hair was cut and donated live. And there were videos of interviews with the participants where they discussed their motivation and their hopes. And these locks of hair will be donated to children who have lost their hair for reasons such as going through chemo for cancer treatment. They also, as a former math teacher, I was excited to hear them talk about the math involved. I think they said maybe 13 school bus lengths of equivalent to 13 school bus. That's how much hair was donated over the years, I believe. And just their enthusiasm and how much work goes into this in preparing for it. Planning it all out on the part of the staff and parents, and just looking at all the information that all of the elementary school principals post. And I'll be honest, I scanned through it, but there's a lot of work that goes into all this, not just what they do in the classroom, all the extra stuff that they do. There's a lot of work on the part of the students, staff, and parents with so many activities they do. And there's so much enthusiasm about it too. So I just wanted to thank them for having me be part of that assembly. It was very, very moving and infectious. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Ms. Stats. Any other comments from the board?
If
I guess I should make a comment, if I may.
Mr. Davis, go ahead.
And I know this is not meant to be a question and answer period. But I know the other board members will attest to the fact that behind the scenes and in our own executive session meetings and so on, I have on a number of occasions expressed, I don't know if gratitude's the right word, admiration might be a better word, for this person that shows up at almost every meeting to represent their point of view. I have said, I wish there were more people from the community who were as faithful and tenacious or whatever it is to attend the board meetings and state their opinions. I don't know if the earth will ever experience a single rotation where we will agree on many things, but the earth does keep turning. And there are things I'm concerned about, and the things that I post to social media, I do try to consciously only share something that is perhaps someone else's opinion or a video of someone giving a testimonial or some personal experience. I rarely attach a personal opinion to what I post. It's more like, isn't this interesting? We should look at this, which tends to be the nature of the things I post. And I do think that that is a viable position. A lot of the things that are said on both sides of these kinds of issues can go to the extremes, which are never helpful. The group over the weekend that was saying it's Pride weekend or Pride month and we're drag and we're queer, whatever it is, and we're coming after your kids. I don't have the quote precise, but I don't think it's hard to understand that some people would hear things like that and get really concerned. And some of what's happening around the state is there are school districts that have become concerned by the guidelines that are being passed down from the governor's office, from the State Board of Ed, that are rightly or wrongly interpreted as impinging upon the parents knowing what's going on with their kids. And Hanover Township, I think Middletown, Marlborough, a couple of others, who have actually passed resolutions to simply, I guess, require that parents are contacted as opposed to merely permitting it. It's not forbidden to contact parents, it's just not required. And they'd like to see it required. In so many other aspects of school life, it is required. Simple medical issues and things like that. But people are concerned, is where this all comes from. An analogy I like to use at times is sometimes, Party A launches a bunch of torpedoes at Party B, and then they become upset when Party B notices. Well, how dare you be upset that we're attacking you? There is a lot of tension going on. The words like culture, war, are not completely inappropriate. They can be loaded. But, culture is simply the amalgam of how people behave. And communities develop cultures. Not just a nation, not just a town, a neighborhood has a culture. How do you put your garbage out? Do you mow your lawn? Do you not mow your lawn? Those are cultures. And if people come along, people are allowed to criticize cultures, question cultures, but when that happens, people can become defensive on the other hand. And the issue for all of us is to find a way through that where life is preserved and the welfare of the kids is made paramount. We all want that. We may interpret that very differently, but I don't think the motives of any of our hearts is to be harmful to the kids.
Thank you for sharing your perspective, Mr. Davis.
Soapbox 101.
Mr. Volpe.
Yeah, I was going to mention two things, but I want to make it very clear about, I think one of the things Mr. Davis had said, hopefully that we can get to a point where we can look at things, from different perspectives. And I'm hoping that what this board did in hiring me was a point for that. I think in my first board meeting here, I talked about wanting to include students and wanting to include a particular student. And some people weren't happy that we changed a policy to do that. And I had said, just keep that in mind, because I'm going to keep talking about being inclusive of everybody and being inclusive of all students. And that goes for everybody, regardless as to who you are or what you believe or who your friends are. I want to make sure that Hillsborough is a place where everyone feels included. And as superintendent, I'm the leader, and I set the tone for that. So if anybody feels that either people aren't being included or aren't being heard, you can reach out to me, because I want to be that great uniter, and people aren't going to always agree. But I promise you, in this school district, everybody is going to be respected, and I'll fight for that. And I promise you, everybody is going to feel included, and I will fight for that. And in the end, we will also comply with laws and policies. And if there are laws and policies that I think are detrimental to kids, behind the scenes, I will advocate for changes. But I also want to make it very clear that when I say I want to include everybody, I want to make sure that I include everyone. The other thing that I did want to mention, and I just have to start up my phone again to make sure that I get this correctly, kind of a weird, awkward transition. If you're following me on @SoupVolpe on Twitter, I'm still celebrating staff as well as students, and I wanted to thank Ms. Jackson for bringing a student, Natalia Fonzetti, to me, who I was unaware of, had won a $1,000 scholarship from Unico. And I tweeted that out today after the end of the school year. But I then thought that wasn't a bad idea, that if we still have students and staff members who are getting accolades, recognitions, and awards, please send them my way. I am more than happy to continue celebrating the successes and include all of these students and staff members and community members in the Hillsborough Township Public Schools. So Ms. Jackson, thank you for getting that to my attention, and anyone else who knows of anything else that needs to be celebrated, please do. And I'll give one more plug. I'm up to 213 followers at Sue Volpe on Twitter. Thank you, Ms. Trujillo.
Thank you, Mr. Volpe. Are there any other comments from the board? Okay, seeing none, then I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
And we will be adjourned until July
17th.
17th. All right, see you then. Enjoy your summer.
Thank you.